What's up, Tackle Warehouse fans? Jake here with this week's episode of What's New at TW. We're getting into that early summertime pattern. I know there's a lot of shad spawn happening around the country. Great time to be out throwing top water and all kinds of cool baits, and the fish are hungry this time of year. So we got a hodgepodge of stuff for you this week, but first we're going to start off with new rod series from Megabass to make sure I don't break it because I can't afford it. The new Megabass Orochi X10 series. So extending the Orochi line, but coming in a little bit higher price point than the regular Orochi XX. So the new X10 is a super interesting series of rods. So the blank on these has got some pretty unique materials that aren't in any other Megabass series of rods. So the blank itself, starting at the core, is actually a carbon fiber core from their higher end series of rods, but they're using this X10 organic material wrapping on the lower section of the rod. And what's interesting about that X10 organic fiber material, that it's actually it's plant fibers that they're using. It's actually lighter weight than artificial carbon fiber. So you're getting a crazy lightweight blank, and the properties of those fibers, it actually helps transmit some of the sensitivity into your hand, and it kind of makes it's kind of counterintuitive that it does absorb some shock, but it's just, it doesn't give you the same feel as a super high-end direct carbon fiber blank. So, but overall, that material, since they're wrapping down on this bottom end with that X10 material, it's gonna reinforce the blank on here, so you're not gonna get any twisting or ovalization. So when you make a cast and when you load the rod up with a heavier lure, it's not gonna twist in your hand. And then on hook sets, when you go to those higher end graphite materials, the problem is that you might ovalize the blank, which is going to cause a failure, and you can snap a rod on a hook set if you're putting too much force on it when you get to those higher end materials. But the X10 wrapping is going to reinforce that entire blank, so make it super strong. And then just like all Megabass rods, the cosmetics are absolutely beautiful on this series. Premium guides, the reel seats on here are a carbon material that are all custom handmade, and they do expose a bunch of the blank back here to increase sensitivity. And then just a super sharp aluminum nut here up on the top for your reel seat, and overall just brings the whole thing together. Premium cork handle, all split grips in the whole lineup. There's a bunch of sizes in the line. They kind of do a bunch of different stuff. I mean, all the way down, I believe we have a 6'4", 6'5" model up to a 7'2". So really cool series of rods, the new Megabass X10 series. Now I want to talk about a new reel from Baits, this new OG 100. When we saw this thing, I mean, it's small and light, compact, but these are built like absolute tanks. If you've never checked out a Baits reel, I highly recommend checking them out. I'm super interested in these as well. So Baits makes everything out of 6061 bar stock aluminum, and actually CNCs these things, CNCs the bodies and all the pieces out of just straight aluminum. So they're insanely robust, super strong reels. And even though it's been all like pretty much all metal construction, it's crazy lightweight. But they did this OG kind of small round reel, kind of a throwback to the old school reels when before low profiles. I mean, everyone had to fish a small round reel, but I think it's super cool they're bringing something like this back. With that little reel. It's got tons and tons of power. It's got the clicker noise on the drag. So when you're using lighter stuff, if you want to back it down and use that lighter line, when the drag's going out, kind of like a spinning reel, which is a really cool feature. And it looks sharp. It's double anodized, so you can actually use it in salt water as well. So you can throw light stuff with it, but it's got the power and the strength to throw your heavier lures on it as well, and a ton of power to crank on some big fish. Super cool reel there by Baits. Next one, the first bait we're going to talk about, new TW exclusive, one that we're really proud of, the new TRD FattyZ worm. So the Fatty Z is hands down an office favorite. No one talks about it, but everyone knows that it's one of the favorites that everyone likes to throw. It's just a fish catching worm, and Z-Man was super cool enough to make it for us, make that profile in their TRD series. So really build this thing for throwing on those small shroom heads, but you can also throw it on like a darter head. You can throw it on a drop shot, a little shaky head, whatever you want to do. Just a small little finesse worm, but just something a little bit different to add to that TRD lineup. Flat bottom on one side, and then has that Fatty Z shape with that kind of bulbous tail on it. Got a bunch of really cool colors. Only get them right here at Tackle Warehouse. All right, more soft plastics here. From Black Label, we got a bunch of different baits. I believe we talked about some last week, and we have some more this week as well. So from Black Label, we got the new hollow point worm, and why Cliff Pace calls it a hollow point is that tail right there. So there is a hollow section right there in the tail, and what that's going to do, it's going to catch water, and then you're going to have that cup surface on there. So when you have this bait on a shaky head or a Nico rig or something, it's just going to help kind of catch water and help this bait kind of flutter its way down. So when this bait's falling like on a shaky head or something, it's not going to fall straight down. That little extra air pocket right there, or that little cupping, is just going to move around and just get you a more subtle action than a regular straight tail style worm on the market. There's a million straight tails. This one's just a little bit different out there. The next one here is the CP Craw. So CP stands for Cliff Pace. So he designed this craw bait to kind of eliminate some of the issues that he had with some of the other similar baits on the market. One, this body is super tough and it's really solid. So it holds like your 3/0, 4/0 flipping hook really well. It's got a lot more meat on it than some of the other ones on the market. So you don't tear them up as bad as some of the other flipping baits. But that streamlined profile, phenomenal flipping, punching bait. You can also cut it down. So we put these little rings on here. There's rings on the sides and the lines on it. So you can cut it down and know exactly where you want to cut it down every single time if you're cutting them down to put them on a jig. But you can run them on a football jig, a swim jig. You can run it on a vibrating jig, whatever you'd want. Just a really cool, super universal bait there by Black Label Baits. And these baits are loaded with some scent. The Bast candy scent, whatever Cliff's calling it. Never smelled anything like it before, so fish are going to bite them and hold on. The last one he's got is this new Player Shad. Now, I've seen a lot of scope baits come, in the last few months. There's going to be more and more scope baits to come in the future, but this is one of the coolest ones I've seen out of many of the scope baits in the last few months. So when he started this bait, he actually took a live shad to start molding this bait. And the ridges that he's kind of molded into the side to help water channel down to the tail. And he's got a few rings around that tail to get that thing to kick a little bit and have the most super subtle action. But it's got enough plastic up here on the head so you can run it on a jig head, or you can put it on any of those hover style hooks where the weight is on the shank and you're going to put it down into the body. But ultra realistic looking small shad bait, the player shad, if you're looking for a new scope bait. Speaking of scope baits, got another one here from True Bast, the new FF Minnow. So a little bit bigger body, forward-facing sonar techniques. It's got the ridges down to a pintail. What I like about this one is the tall, flat sides. I think it's also going to be great trailer for like your vibrating jigs, spinner baits, and then in the wintertime, if you want to throw this thing on an underspin, just going to have super subtle action, just a little bit more versatile than just throwing it on a ball head jig and throwing it out there to suspended fish. So new FF Minnow from True Bass. New swimbait head we got from Beast Coast, actually. This new sled head, super unique. So, there's a ton of swimbait heads out there on the market. This one, has a completely different shape to it. Kind of has a semi-recessed line tie. But the way they scoop that head in there, your soft plastic will actually go up in that head and make a more seamless profile from your soft plastic and your lead head, which I think is really cool, just to help blend those two together and not have such an abrupt transition from the head to your bait, whatever trailer you're going to use. 2 wire keepers on there, so it's going to hold hooks on there, or hold your trailers on there really well. Also backed by a super sharp BKK hook. So kind of got everything you want on there. When you're dragging this thing along the bottom, it's going to kind of give you that rocking action, and then that lead's going to be able to tick off the bottom a little bit more effectively and give you a little bit better vibration transmission up to your rod, just increase your sensitivity a little bit more. New line, not necessarily new line, but new line to Tackle Warehouse. We now carry Cortland line. So we have Cortland Master Braid. What's cool about their braid is they're not all going up in line size or pound test strength. They're not all the same carrier count. So on your lower strength test, I believe they start off at 4 carrier and they go all the way up to 120 pound or something like that, or 200 pound, and go all the way up to a 12 strand. I believe we got it up to 65 pound, which is either a 6 or 8 strand. But really cool that they change the carrier count to be the most effective for that pound test line. They do have color last technology, so the way they dye the materials and put the dye into the fibers themselves, it lasts really long and it's not going to fade away like some of the other braided lines on the market. And then we also have their fluorocarbon XTR fluorocarbon leader material. This stuff is crazy strong. So if you're doing a lot of braid to leader connections, definitely want to check this out. This new fluorocarbon leader material that they got, it's got a lot of abrasion resistance, really low on stretch, but you can run this stuff over rocks and dock pilings and chains and all kinds of stuff, and it's going to hold up to the abuse of heavy cover and toothy fish. So if you need a fluorocarbon material that's really strong and really durable, check that one out from Cortland. From Hairline, we actually got a cool new accessory here. So Hairline's got this new flat lead wire. Now this is the package it comes in, but when you take it out, it's gonna be this like little coil of lead wire. But we were messing around with it and there's a bunch of stuff you can do with it. So just some examples, if you got like a wacky hook or something, we just did this on a circle hook. You can wrap the shank and you can kind of make adjustments on the fly with this stuff. Just something to keep in your terminal box. Just, you know, just give you the option if you need to add weight to something, but you don't have, you don't have the right hook for the job, or if you just, you want to get your wacky rig to sink a little bit farther or something like that, you can add a little bit of weight to it, super quickly, wrap it around there. You can even hit it with a little bit of glue to make it stand on there or just stick on there. We also put one on an offset worm hook for like a soft plastic fluke, which I think is a great idea. I mean, right around this time of the year, you can really catch a lot of fish on soft plastic jerkbaits. And sometimes, some of the ones on the market, they're so light, they take a long time to really sink and get down, but that little bit of weight on there will help you get that bait down, fish it a little quicker. Just really cool accessory, might want to keep in the terminal box. Swim jig from Lunker Lure. This one's actually designed by classic champion Randy Howell, and there's a couple of features on here that I really like about this swim jig. So one, they've got a bunch of really cool colors. Two, they've put a screw lock on the shank, so it's gonna hold your trailers on there super well. But three, there's actually a rattle system on both sides of the hook. So it's got a lot more noise than some of your, those smaller glass rattles that you can like put inside of a worm. So that thing ticks, and actually it has quite a bit of acoustics to it. So really cool sound, especially if you're doing, the Alabama shake and you're out there and you're shaking those swim jigs. This thing is going to make way more noise and way more commotion than your other swim jigs on the market, but just something to think about, throw in the arsenal, especially if you're dealing with dirty water and you want to make a little bit more noise. Next up from Loon Outdoors, we got this new Apex hook remover tool. I wish I would have had this thing a few weeks ago. Super useful for, even if you just fish bass. I mean, I wish I would have had it, having fish completely choke a frog or something all the way down its throat. And in certain lures, it's hard to get in there, especially, with a set of needle nose, especially if, you only have a, 3-4 inch needle nose. And certain types of lures, it's hard to get in there and get that hook and like get the right angle on it to pop it out. This is going to be a great tool to have in case you run in that situation, or if you're dealing with toothy fish, kayak anglers, and the season just opened up here where we live on the Central Coast, and you're dealing with stuff that's got teeth, and you want to have something like this that you can get in there and safely get those lures and hooks out without getting your hands in any kind of harm's way. So super useful tool. Doesn't matter what you fish for, might want to have one of these in your kit. From BassT, we got a bunch of stuff. The first one actually is their screen cleaner. So we got it in 2 size options, but the other stuff is kind of geared towards your transducers and your fish finders. But just starting off, just keeping those things clean, keeping your screens clean so you can actually see that stuff. So this stuff will clean off all the dirt, grime, hard water stains, and keep your screens clear so you can actually see them as best as possible. Now, The next one here is their transducer protector. So we got these for various transducers that are out there on the market, but I mean, people are spending insane amounts of money on these electronic setups on their boat, and this is a small, inexpensive way to protect those super expensive transducers, especially if you're really relying on those things. You don't want to bump it into cover or bump it into something and crack it, damage it, and then having to spend money on a whole brand new transducer. You can get one of these. It doesn't interfere with any of your sonar and help keep those things protected. The last one we got here from the BassT is their wiring harness. So we got these set up if you're running if you need to run power to either just the bow or the console, or both. If you want to upgrade your wiring system to both ends of your boat, this is the way to do it. It's just a high grade wiring system that's going to give you better performance than the stock wiring system that comes in most boats. I think everyone that's ran graphs or ran some wire through their boat realizes that the electronics or the wiring systems that come in most boats is not the greatest, and if you upgrade that system, you're just going to get better performance out of all your electronics. So if you're running power, if you need it for just the one side of the boat or both sides, they got you covered with their new wiring harness. Last up, from Flambeau, we got the new Nextg series of tackle boxes. So this is the smaller of the two sizes that we offer, but got a little easy latch system on here. You can just open it right up, and then it's got these little compartments that just kind of slide out and fold out. Great for kids that are getting into fishing, and just give them a little tackle box they can organize. I think having one of these is almost a rite of passage to have a tackle box of this style when you're a kid and you have to at some point kick it down the hill, down the bank, and mix everything up that's inside and go home and reorganize it. I don't know how many hours I've spent doing that when I was a kid with the old accordion style trays. But these ones, you're not going to completely ruin everything because the way they slide in and out, they're kind of tucked up against the roof there. So even if you do knock it over, you're not going to completely make a full disaster. But if you got a bunch of little loose items in there and you mix them up, it's definitely going to happen. But super nice, small, lightweight little tackle boxes. Got them in multiple sizes if you need a tackle box for a new beginner angler that just has a little bit of tackle that they want to keep organized. All right, that's going to wrap up today's episode of What's New at TW. For more information or to purchase any of the products seen here today, click shop or link in the description below. If you enjoyed this week's video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, let us know in the comments which one of these products you're most pumped about.